if you're listening to this, it's probably game day. And man, I've been consuming a lot of Steph Curry propaganda the last 24 hours. It's almost hard to get my head wrapped into got to start a new series now. But you know what? We're professionals. That's what we do.
Sir, welcome to the series of the century. You know how in college football, when Bama plays LSU or something the last 10 years, they call it the game of the century? This is what that is. Steph versus LeBron, Chapter 5, the series of the century. I cannot wait. I cannot wait.
And you mix in Laker fans. Like, I think we talked about it a little on the last episode with LAL, but it's just like everyone knows a ton of Laker fans growing up in the Bay Area. There's a little resentment. It's just there's a little NorCal SoCal rivalry there.
I went to the gym today and I saw at least 6 or 7 people with Laker shorts or LA hats, and I'm just like, what is going on? I'm already disgusted. It's not even game one. I'm already grossed out. What is happening?
Yeah, it's partially because, you know, like we both have family members who moved to LA, relocated. Obviously, the opposite happens too with people relocating up from LA to the Bay Area. But it's really those people who grew up in the Bay Area but decided to be a Laker fan because the Lakers were good when we were kids and the Warriors were not. That disgusts me. Not going to lie.
Could have been me, but I hated Kobe all the way until I turned 22. So this is going to be an all-timer, man. An all-timer.
Yeah. I was kind of digging into the series, and my initial gut feeling was I feel like this is a bad matchup for the Warriors because I remembered that's kind of how the regular season went. But then I thought about it a little deeper, and I realized while AD has always been a little bit of a problem for the Warriors, I'm not convinced anything that happened in the regular season matters. And let me lay this out for you. The first game, they had Westbrook on their roster. Warriors ran them out of the gym. Game 2 and 3, Steph didn't play. I'm just uninterested in any sample size that involves games without Steph Curry. Game 4 was Steph's first game back, and Wiggins was missing, and Anthony Lamb played 27 minutes. As we saw in the Sacramento Kings series, I would be very surprised if Anthony Lamb plays 7 minutes in any game, much less 27 minutes. On the Lakers side, I think LeBron missed at least 2 of the matchups as well. It's just different teams. They were at no point did we see either team close to full strength against each other. So throw anything you saw in the regular season out the window with those two teams because we're shooting blind on this one.
100%. Dude, I had it written down that I was going to talk about how the regular season didn't matter, and you pretty much threw out everything I was going to say. The only thing I want to point out also is even if they were healthy and playing each other, I still don't think any of it would have mattered. You really think those guys would have thrown some real schemes that they would actually try to use now that they are going to play in a playoff series together? You don't think LeBron already knows what Steve Kerr wants to run? You don't think Steph and those guys already know what defense an AD LeBron team is going to play? It's all, I mean, come on, man. None of that stuff matters.
The first LeBron pick 6 when the Warriors run Steph off ball, and he knows exactly where he's going, and the telegraph pass that Draymond wants to make is going to be so infuriating because the only person who knows the Warriors playbook as well as Steph, Clay, and Draymond is LeBron James. But you know it's coming. It's coming.
There will be moments where LeBron's going to come out there and Kuminga's going to be out of position, and LeBron's going to say, hey, kid, go get to the corner, right? It's gonna be hilarious. I think I'm with you. Maybe we're disagreeing though. I think on our predictions on the series, I do think it will be probably the hardest series that the Warriors are gonna play. I think this entire playoffs. I truly think so. I think whoever that they end up playing in the West Finals, if they make it there, and whoever they end up playing come out of the East, I think the Lakers are a harder matchup than any of those teams. So even taking out the regular season, Sam, I think this is the hardest matchup the Warriors will go through.
I think I agree on that point. I think if you tell me you get the best version of AD, which we've seen for most of this season, definitely more so in the previous 2 seasons, objectively toughest matchup, because I think he actually is. He might be the only big man in the NBA who gives them significant issues. Maybe Giannis, but
they don't play Giannis enough. but
yeah,
AD,
and
know.
then secondarily, everyone around Giannis is slow and unathletic. That even if he can hang with the Warriors, like they just have too many guys they could pick on. That's less so an issue with the Lakers. We got LeBron and Vanderbilt and guys who are, let's just say, not liabilities. Then AD gets to just, kind of use wingspan and be a terror all over. I don't know. I disagree with you on that point, because if both teams are operating at their max capacity, and whatever that means in 2023, it's like a total clash of styles.
Yeah.
And I don't think, let's say the Warriors do beat the Lakers. The Suns aren't a clash of styles. Denver's not really a clash of styles. I think Boston or Miami or someone might come out of the East. Not really that. The Lakers are just built the complete opposite way the Warriors are. So it kind of it's going to be a tough matchup, because they can push some of the Warriors' weaker points.
It will be. And so let's get to the nitty gritty. I'll let you kind of lead the way here, but I think this is going to be, dude. I don't know how many great series we've seen in the Warriors in the last 10 seasons. This might top them all, because I do think some part of this is Steph and LeBron, first time they go 6 games, and by the end of that series, it very much felt like the Warriors are just a way better team. The second time around, that thing goes 7 games. It's an instant classic. The Warriors kind of fall apart. They're the ones that start to say, okay, now they're a little tired. They're a little worn down. Cavs outlasted them. Then you've got the KD, those back-to-back ones. The first one, Warriors and Cavs, was that the best basketball that we've seen the last 20 years? Probably. The Warriors are just a better team. And then the one after that, I think LeBron had it was a shitty East. He got out of it. The Warriors swept him. Right? So those were the 4 chapters. And now it feels like you're getting still operating at his prime Steph Curry at 35. You're still getting a LeBron that's very good, but I do think maybe at the tail end of his career. But he's got a guy in Anthony Davis who's kind of like Kevin Durant, right? Who's like an elite wingman, top 10 player in the NBA. So versus the depth that the Warriors have in terms of Clay, Draymond, Wiggins. So you've got like 3 or 4 guys that are like mid-tier versus AD who's above them. So I don't know, man. This one's a lot different than the last 4 times that Steph and LeBron have played each other. So that's why I'm
I think LeBron is at best the 3rd best player on the court. Yeah. I don't know that I could say that at any other time. It is even round 1. He's still better than Ja Morant. He's still better than anyone the Grizzlies have. But like Steph's the best player in the league. Sorry. I know it makes old heads like shiver to have to say the 6'2" guy is the best player in the league, but he is. And AD is just better than LeBron today. Doesn't mean LeBron can't be really good, but it's like that's kind of why I started the conversation off with AD, because I think he is the bigger focal point for the Warriors. And I guess you can say, how do the Warriors stop those guys, and then how do the Lakers stop Steph and that? Yep. But let's go both ways. I guess we'll start with the Laker one, because I just teed that one up first. What do you think the Lakers do with AD?
Offensively, defensively, you're talking about both.
Yeah.
Dude, AD is such a weird thing. Watching that Memphis series, one game he'll be completely locked in, 29 points, 6 blocks, best player on both sides of the court, makes it defensive player of the year. Jaren Jackson looks like a child. And then the next game, he'll just completely sleepwalk. Right? He'll just sleepwalk through a game. It's kind of like the Warriors. The most fascinating thing to me is, can Anthony Davis beat Kevon Looney 4 times in a series so that the Warriors don't have to use Draymond against AD? Warriors using Draymond against AD, I think, is not their first option. That's not what they're going to do to start. I think they're going to prefer to have Looney start off on him and then Draymond roam around against other guys. Wiggins, obviously, on LeBron. So I do think if Kevon Looney can hold his own,
they can put Draymond on Vanderbilt and say,
correct,
take that corner 3, bro.
Correct. Which is what Memphis tried to do, right? And, and I think it will work. Vanderbilt's shot is as bad as Draymond's. So I think that's the series. So I'm glad you started there. That's the series in terms of, if Anthony Davis is just going to go for 32 points and completely dominate the paint every 4 or 5 times a series, I don't think the Warriors can win.
Yeah. I think the other aspect you hit on AD, like the biggest thing is like he has moments where you're like, good God, this might be the best big man I've ever seen. And then he'll follow it up by like, I don't know, looking like Clint Capella, like just chilling out there, like not bad, but not particularly special either. And I think part of that is he just runs out of gas and just has games where he doesn't have the energy.
Good point.
And to, whether it's that or it's mental, it's probably both. I think the Warriors absolutely have to run when they get lethargic AD. It's funny because against the Kings, they actually slowed it down because they're finally like, these guys are too young. I think against the Lakers, they have to take the opposite approach, which is, look, man, we're old, but they are kind of bigger and older in a lot of different ways. Like LeBron's obviously older. He has an issue with too much running, I think. AD as a big man tires out. So you have to kind of take advantage of those lulls. And I think the Warriors are going to just run way more in this series than they did in the last series because they don't want to get stuck in the half court, allowing AD just to stand back there and then decide to use all his length and, athleticism to contest everything. They want to make him play in transition and just tire him out as much as possible. He can play in transition, but like ultimately he's way more terrifying when they're like stuck in a half court.
How does this, and again, keep in mind every game, it's every other day. Now, I think the Lakers have an advantage in game one. Obviously, they've had 4 days off almost. Right, and the Warriors are one day of rest, but game 2, 1 day of rest, game 3, 1 day of rest, game 4, 1 day of rest. So what does Anthony Davis look like by the time he gets to game 6? I think one final thing for me on Anthony Davis is the Warriors, I think before this season, had a lot of paint points. They were really good at backdooring. They had a lot of smart guys, Otto Porter, Andre Iguodala.
Also just better spacing with like guys like Otto and stuff.
Yep. Yeah. Better spacing, better passing. I just think generally smarter people. I think this year's team is not, right? You can just see it. It's why the Sac series went 7. They just tend to just launch, especially guys like, Clay, Jordan Poole, Dante DiVincenzo just launches threes. And maybe that's a good thing against this Lakers team where Anthony Davis isn't going to come out when he's going to get fatigued. You and I have talked about it every other game this season. It's not always a good thing because they shoot too many threes when they should be getting the hole, but maybe that's a good thing this series because you're not going to be able to finish.
Too many lazy. Dante and Poole.
Dante might be the biggest culprit with Dante. Those two guys.
Dante and Poole, yeah.
Yeah. Just from 25.
18 seconds on the clock. Don't even like their first option isn't there. They're like, oh, got to shoot it. That's like literally what it feels like sometimes. And you're right. It's like they've never been a team that, got to the rim in isolation a lot. It's been a lot of like you said, cutting and like you move the ball. Next thing Poole gets a backdoor layup, that sort of. They're not doing that as much. Like the one thing you can see from the Laker games is like they get stuck in half court. They don't have an offense that's just chucking. So that's why I think they're just going to run a lot more because it's just you don't want to be in that matchup. Now, on the flip side, yes, the Lakers in a set half-court defense are a problem, but I don't think they have anyone who can guard Steph, period. They have great help defense. Like they have the right big men to devise a scheme to guard him, but it's a lot of like Dennis Schroeder, Austin Reeves. I refuse to believe they're dumb enough to have D'Lo guard him. It's a lot of guys where I'm like Vanderbilt definitely, but I wonder how much Vanderbilt can stay on the floor if the Warriors don't guard him. They are. I mean, how do you think they're going to guard Steph? Because they don't have a natural point of attack defender or any really elite perimeter defender. Their entire defense is built around the fact that they have maybe the best defensive big man.
You asked me the question knowing what the answer is, Samuel. Come on now. They're going to double and trap Steph out at the extended three-point line. They're going to make him get rid of the ball to Draymond. Draymond's going to 4-on-3 against Anthony Davis. He's definitely not going to shoot the 8-foot floater, so he'll try to pass it to Looney, who will then try to kick it back out to Clay, who will then try to kick it back out to Wiggins, and then it'll be an 18-foot contested foot. Like, we know what the defense is going to be against Steph. I guess what I'm really curious is does Steph start the series being okay taken out of the game? Is he going to be happy just lofting the ball over the double team and saying, all right, Draymond, try to figure out the 4-on-3. I don't know what they're going to do, but I feel like we know that he's going to be doing that the first 2-3 games, right? I don't know. What do you think?
I do think one, they're going to try to see what they can do. It's like accept the double and let's see if Steph can relocate. And the Lakers are going to bank on the fact that AD can cover the 4-on-3 by himself, which again,
Probably will.
I mean, he's on the short list of guys who have a chance at doing it anyway, right? But yeah, I do agree with you. They're going to trap Steph and try to get the ball out of his hands. I do think the counter is eventually going to be Steph just deciding to ISO a little more. I know he doesn't like to do it, but like the Lakers, every time you run a pick and roll, you actually play to the Lakers' advantage. Whereas all their guards, like, come on, man, Dennis Schroeder, Austin Reeves on an island. No, you want them on an island with the help as far away as possible, and then just see what they do when Steph takes 3 dribbles and hesitates and that sort of stuff. We know they're not going to start with that type of offense. I mean, it took to game 7 for Steph to just kind of be like, ball in my hands, I'll make every decision. Did you see the stat? He dribbled it over 500 times in that game. I mean, Steve had to have been disgusted. Steve had to have hated it. No, but it's just like, it's good to know you can get there. So
yeah, I saw that by a friend of the show, Kevin KOC, and I laughed because I was like, oh, so he just played Luka ball and Harden ball and Trey ball and Dame ball, except he did it like 100 times better because he's Steph Curry and not those guys. Also, the reason why he, and you and I have mentioned this, but he doesn't do it in game 1 because, dude, have you seen James Harden in a game 7? Have you seen Luka? By the time the Western Conference Finals comes around, he's not even moving there on the court, right? So he can't, I say all that. Steph can't just come out in game 1 and just dribble the ball 500 times. Like that's going to make the game.
They're not coming out here and acting like the 2018 Rockets. Like, that's not who they are.
It's also not the best way to win this series. Mm-hmm. I do think, in terms of X factors on offense, I guess before we move on to the next thing, Klay Thompson, you're going to have to, 6 for 19 yesterday, right? Clay is going to have to, if they run a
4 for 19,
I overshot it like him. If he's going to run a guard, pick and roll, pick and pop, he's going to have to make shots. Duh. But another guy is Kuminga. When you talk about the 4-on-3, he's going to get a shot, I think, at playing the Andre Iguodala alley-oop role in the short corner. So can he stay on the floor? The Lakers didn't guard him last time he was there, and he hoisted a couple threes. I hate it. Stop shooting threes. If he's going to come in, can he be aggressive? Is he going to go to the hole? So I think those two guys are pretty big X factors.
Clay's a good one because if they start trapping Steph, and then they're going to bank on the fact that AD can cover essentially both big men by himself, Draymond and Looney at the same time. That leaves Clay on the weak side, and Clay is traditionally feasted on that. He's got to hit his shots this game. Like
last 8 minutes against Sac, I think he had like 4 wide open threes in 5 possessions. He missed all of them.
That was a funny thing about the Sac game. Is like I didn't really think he took that many bad shots. He just could not hit anything.
Odd. I think exhaustion, which it's gonna happen this series, but maybe if the pace is slower, that it helps Clay a little bit because he was tired in the Sac series, right? He was tired.
Yeah, this series will be more of a. It's going to be more physical, less of a endurance grind, more of like they're just going to bang a lot and they can get tired in different ways. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Friend of the show, Marcus Thompson, put something out at the end of yesterday. We didn't get to talk about in the post-game show, but Steph Curry's speech, delivering, Winston Churchill during World War II level speech. I don't know. Just unstoppable. Like I said, we've been consuming the Steph propaganda all day. But the thing that was interesting in there is people felt his speech was aimed particularly at Poole and Kuminga, where he was basically saying, buy into your role and I'll deliver us a win. Stop trying to be more than you are. Like, what we need from you. Kuminga, we need you to use your athleticism to rebound and cut. We're not running the offense through you like your prime Kawhi. Jordan Poole, need you to play off and make smart decisions. I don't need you trying to do your James Harden impression. That sort of stuff was kind of the message that was conveyed. And I think about that because they're going to need to find minutes outside of the starting lineup this series. And I fully expect Steve to give everyone a shot in the early part of the series to see who he can trust, because it will be a long series.
Don't forget the last part of that speech was, hey, if you're not ready to go, don't get on the bus with us, which is very Draymond-ish from Steph. You never get that type of response from Steph, but hey, I mean, he kind of knew that this was the end of an era if these guys didn't deliver. And a lot of people out there say, like, Steph gave that speech and only him and Looney showed up. No, they didn't turn the ball over, and they played elite defense. Everybody showed up. They just couldn't shoot the ball because it's a game 7. Nobody can shoot the ball in a game 7, except for Steph, right, and Draymond in 2016. So I think, yeah, I'm with you on well delivered. To Kuminga and Poole's point, I bring this up every time. Steph came off the bench last postseason because Jordan Poole was being a little baby about coming off the bench. I mean, that was why he did it. That was Steph's leadership. Whoever wrote the script for that speech and the delivery, I mean, just hats off, right? Something straight out of Disney Plus. Thought that was well done. Marvel should take a look at that, since they've been churning out shit movies now for the past year or so. They've got to figure out a way to get Kuminga's head in it, though, Sam. I know you talked about Jordan Poole, but I'm going to talk about Kuminga. Dude, they need him to be able to play in this series. Can they win this series without Kuminga? Yeah, I think they can. But is life going to be so much easier if Kuminga can give true minutes, 15 minutes, like what Moses Moody did? What Moses Moody did was a godsend in the SAC series, right? And you would think Moses Moody is going to come off and be able to play 10-15. Can Kuminga do that? Dude, he can body LeBron. Not like dominate him, not drive against LeBron, but he can guard LeBron. This is not prime LeBron. This is not the forearm shiver, step back 3, go right through you, LeBron. We saw what he was in Memphis. He's still good. 3rd best player in the series, like you said. But this iteration of LeBron, Kuminga should be able to stay on the court against that, right?
If they can get 15 minutes a game out of Kuminga, that's 15 minutes they weren't getting last series. And he should be able to, because they don't run a complicated offense the way the Kings do. It's not as dependent on off-ball movement. Kuminga, like most young guys, that stuff just kills them. He has no clue how to guard it. Next thing you know, his man's wide open. We're talking about, I need you to use your physical tools and guard LeBron 1-versus-1 for a few minutes here and there,
Or he Austin Reeves right?
He's done it against Luka. Honestly, the things he's done, which has made people think he has super high defensive upside, has been when they've stuck him on those isolation-based scores, when it's been guarding Luka, DeRozan, and obviously LeBron's a different level to those guys, but it's like, when he just has to guard someone one-on-one on an island, it's a lot simpler, and he knows how to do it more so than like, all right, Herter's coming off of a screen, and Malik Monk's going to just, flare off of him, and he needs to know where to rotate to. And next thing you know, the guy he was supposed to be on is wide open,
Yeah. Just a good point. I think outside of LeBron, I brought up Austin Reeves too, because that's a guy that LA has relied on. That's been incredible.
Yeah.
I just hate to say that I really like Austin Reeves, but I think that's someone that they might throw Kuminga on just to say, like, he's not quicker, he's not stronger, he's shifty, right? But you're going to be able to stay in front. And Kuminga doesn't. Here's the thing about Kuminga, even though I think his defensive IQ is super low, but when you put him onto a guy, he doesn't jump and make dumb fouls. He's not that type of defender. To your point, can he guard off ball action? No. He may never, but can he guard someone in front of him? Yeah. I mean, he's done a damn good job of that.
He can definitely guard one-on-one, but there's more to NBA defense than one-on-one.
Yeah, I know.
Which is
why he can't play.
With all that said, he might not need to do more than guard one-on-one in this series, and that works to his advantage a little bit.
I think he'll get a shot. I'm like slightly optimistic about Kuminga this series. I watched them in one game, and I was just like, oh yeah, Steve's not playing him. Yeah. Right? He's not playing him.
It's funny if they advance. If they play Phoenix, I think he'll play a lot, because all they do is run the ball, don't stop offense. So he doesn't have to worry about anything. Just when KD gets the ball, don't foul,
But Denver.
But if they get Denver, sack series all over again. Yeah. That first time that Jokic gets Michael Porter Jr. on a back cut, Steve's going to be like, bench.
That's it.
Get on the bench. It's funny. Styles do make a fight with this roster. What was I going to say? Do you think Moses Moody plays a role in this series?
I can't see why he wouldn't. You're right. Like, I don't see why he wouldn't. Yeah.
I think, look, in the regular season, they used a lot of Tony Lamb. And say what you want, but he was almost always thrown out there when they're like, we need another shooter we can trust to semi-make a decision, right? Moody did that in round 1. He's shooting the ball well. We know he could shoot the ball, and his decision-making's calmed down a little bit. Shout out Moses Moody for kind of being unfairly in the doghouse and not letting it phase him at the biggest time of the season, you know?
I don't get it. It feels like they dusted off a 20-year vet that they could just be like,
wait, this is what they do with Andre.
Yeah. Like, what? I don't understand it. I don't understand it from Steve Kerr's perspective. I also don't understand it from Moses Moody's perspective. Like, how isn't he mad about this? Why wasn't he better in the regular season? I think some people have made the argument like, hey, he was terrible too in the regular season. And I'm a little bit confused, but hey, I'm not going to argue against it. The dude's, like, so often you see Moses Moody just drive into the lane, right, and just kind of jump and make a bad decision or something, or even slow on defense, and then all of a sudden the playoffs come and the dude's he's like on the ground, loose balls, quicker to the ball than the other team. How does that even make sense? So you know how I feel about Moody. You know I think he's the best of the young guys, but I think he plays this series against the Lakers are funny because like they rely, it feels like, so heavily on guys like Rui Hachimura. And the Warriors are now like relying so heavily on guys like Moses Moody and Kuminga. It's interesting because those guys aren't. We'll see. It feels like all of those guys are just hit or miss. You'll never know when
I've never seen Rui play this well in my life, and part of me feels like, come on, he's got to turn into a pumpkin at some point. He's not KD. Sorry. But who knows? He's been playing out of his mind. Like, what did he have in that game 1?
Like 29. Like 20. They won that game because of him.
All on like mid-range shots. Yeah. You know, I was just like, Jesus, what is going on?
Like, Memphis didn't play poorly in game 1. They weren't great, but if it was a normal Rui game, they win that. Memphis wins game 1.
They had the correct game plan, which was we're more concerned about LeBron and AD, and if Rui goes off, then so be it. And then they just happen to get, like, what are the odds that happens, right? If that's going to happen to the Warriors, I'm going to get really annoyed. Anyway.
Yeah, but then, the Warriors have guys like Jordan Poole. Would it surprise you if Jordan Poole goes and gets 29 points in game 1 or game 2, right? Just off a team that's a little less frantic than the Kings. Maybe decision-making gets a little bit easier. I don't know. Maybe Steph's speech kind of, got him motivated. I don't know. Would it surprise you? How do you feel about Jordan Poole this series?
I think it's better. I think it's a better matchup for him. First off, I feel like most of the issues with the Sacramento series it was less about the matchup and more about him being in his head. You know what I'm saying? Like, and maybe them winning and moving on is just enough for him to exhale a little bit. I think if they play him next to Steph, which I anticipate them doing for stretches, he could be the biggest beneficiary of them trying to trap or get overly aggressive with Steph. He's going to get his looks. Again, the Lakers don't have great perimeter defense. They have great interior defense. And if they're going to put their attention on stopping someone like Steph, there will be opportunities for Jordan Poole, if he slows down and doesn't try to do a million things at once, to get a lot of easy, like, all right, drive straight to the rim, open shot, feet set, swish, that sort of stuff. Like, him and Clay should get good opportunities, and it's just about them actually, like, being smart with them and not making shots harder than they need to be.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess my question for you is, aside from those guys, who else are you looking at as an X factor here?
Dude, is LeBron healthy or not? Is such a big question for me this series. You talk to Lakers fans, and I think a lot of them tell you that, he looked good when they needed him to look good.
That's true. He had that 20 rebound game where it looked like he couldn't move.
couldn't move. End of game 4, right? 20 rebounds, and he shows up the last 4 minutes of a game, shows up in overtime, but the 30 minutes before that, like, is he moving well? And look, this is not X factor. This is kind of just one of the broader questions, maybe the number 1-2 question of the series, but it needs to be asked: is what is LeBron? Is it all of a sudden he sees the Warriors and he's like, let's go, right? 35, just like the old days. It's just, I'm making threes, I'm making step back threes. I see Steph Festus in front of me. It's buckets, right?
Do the Warriors pick on LeBron? Are they bold enough to just run like Clay or Steph, have LeBron's man be the screener all day and make LeBron have to switch that action and chase shooters around? Honestly,
if it's one team that can do that, it's the Warriors.
And how bad his foot is? If his foot is bad, they should be trying to wear him down because, yeah, as you know, like they're going every other day. This is definitely going to be like, can we wear them down? And, by game 5, 6, he looks 48, not just 38. He looks 48,
And the same goes for Anthony Davis, and really the same goes for, and you bring this up, the same goes for the Warriors.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about pace and we can talk about guys getting tired, but the Warriors were the ones that got tired against the Kings too. And I think when you talk about LeBron and AD, top 10, top tier talent for the Lakers, then you talk about Steph, who's the only really top tier talent for the Warriors. Those are your 3 guys. I know the Lakers are deep, but if you have to tell me who's the best players after Steph, AD, LeBron, it's Draymond, Wiggins, and Clay, right? Those are the 3 guys that are the best players after those first 3. And then after that, it's a crapshoot. It's Austin Reeves, it's Jordan Poole, it's Kevon Looney, it's Rui Hachimura, Vanderbilt, all those guys. But I do think like it might just be a war of attrition this series, where in game 6 at Crypto Arena, you just might see LeBron, AD, Clay, these guys just might be dragging ass. It might be like a 92-86 game, which I think is what we're going to get by the end of the series. I think we're getting some real rock fights by the end of the series.
I could see it.
And they also can't score against each other. That's
I got a stat from friend of the show, Alex Simon. Who had the most who got the most free throw attempts this season? The Lakers. Who got the least free throw attempts this season? The Warriors. Who had who had the most fouls called on them? Okay, not the Warriors, did the third most though. Who had the least fouls called on them? The Lakers. They are complete opposites. I mean, this gets back to our styles make a fight. The Lakers are all about controlling the paint, AD, LeBron, rim, that area. The perimeter play is like, you're getting a lot of mileage out of guys who look better because they play next to those 2 guys, right? Warriors, opposite. A lot of dudes are getting mileage because Steph Curry gets like 3 eyeballs at his own free throw line. A lot of, best 3-point shooting team don't do too much at the rim. How much do you think fouling is going to factor into this series? Because that's the one thing that kind of concerns me. Like, they don't have the depth. Like, we might see more JaMychal Green than we want to see in the series because Looney's in foul trouble, because Draymond might be in foul trouble, that sort of thing.
Yeah, we saw that in some of the games against the Kings. I think 1 or 2 games where Looney and Draymond were in foul trouble. Even more so this game. I mean, this series, because AD is obviously so much better than Sabonis. But I think that's where guys like Kuminga's got to be able to give 15 minutes, right? It's not just Anthony Davis drawing fouls. It's LeBron getting to the rim and drawing fouls. So I think Andrew Wiggins,
those Austin Reeves bullshit fouls.
That too. If we haven't talked about Wiggins at all. I think he's going to be fine this series. I think he always does a good job against LeBron. He'll get open shots. But it's someone like Kuminga where can you toss him on LeBron and Reeves? Right? Can you make sure that he plays out there and is fine defensively?
Can he close the first quarter for 3 minutes so you don't have to risk Draymond getting a 3rd foul? Like that sort of stuff, which if he's going to give you good minutes, you're not worried about foul trouble. If he's not, you don't trust him. Maybe you let Draymond play and with 1 more foul than you want. Next thing you know, you're like, no, we're screwed, that type of stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we see JaMychal Green the series, the game is over. Right? We saw that in I think it was game 2. I think we saw him. It was just like, no, this is not going well. If that happens, that's just who the Warriors are. But when Looney's playing well and when Draymond's playing well and they're locking up KD, we're gonna go like, well, they don't need a big. It's just what the Warriors have been. Just, those two guys are that good. Both of those guys played 30 plus minutes, 35 minutes in game 7. They would have played. They would have played more. So
yeah, no, I mean that's what they plan to do. I'm just saying they could end up having to go to the third big if they have to. Anyway, won't go down that road. Ultimately, let's end with some predictions here. I feel like I'm so excited about this. I'm now thinking through every scenario. I'm sure people are listening to this and being like, I'm giving the Lakers too much credit. It's not even that. It's just like this matchup excites me, and I'm thinking through every little scenario I can, and make him out that way.
I think this goes the distance, all the way. This goes 7. I think we deserve it. I think this is how the Warrior season has gone. Steph and LeBron, Volume 5. I think this is how it's going to go down. I think it's going to go 7. I think Warriors are going to win it. Warriors have the best player. You brought it up in the beginning. They have the best player. I think they'll win in 7. It's at home. Hilariously enough, the Warriors actually have home court advantage. They might lose that immediately Tuesday night because they're the more tired team, but they're pretty even. I think each game is a coin flip. So I'm like, I couldn't confidently tell you that the Warriors are better at this than the Lakers, and they can be consistently better at it across a 7-game series, that they'll win it in 5 or that they'll win it in 6. I think it's going to be back and forth. It goes all the way, and Steph's the best player again.
I agree with you, and you kind of talked me into it. I think we'll see a blowout in each direction in the first 4 games. We'll see a feel-out game, a blowout, another feel-out game, and then those final few games, game 5 through 7, rock fight. I think that this series, we may, maybe 125, 107 in game 2. No one's going to be breaking 105 by game 5, 6, 7. It's going to get physical. They'll stop calling as many whistles, and it's going to get a lot of like 97, 92, which in this era of the NBA might as well be 77, 72,
Yeah. And I'll tell you this. If Draymond gets ejected and suspended one game in this series, they ain't winning this one this time around. So
is Draymond going to invite LeBron on the pod post game?
How come LeBron has never been on the pod?
Good game, King. Good game. What's interesting is I feel like Draymond's only had people on the pod like a couple times. It's almost always just him in front of a mic ranting and raving, he doesn't do a 2-man. He doesn't do the guest interview for these post games. It's just a lot of like, this is what I'm thinking, which like, it's hard to do. Credit to him. It's not easy to pod by yourself.
Well, when it's Draymond, I feel like it's almost easier. It's like when I saw him talking to Harrison Barnes, it's like, how many words do you think Harry B got in? You know what I mean? It was probably just Draymond going off for 30 straight seconds. And, Harry B maybe he was just like, yeah, okay, once or twice. So I don't know. I forgot to mention it, but obviously Draymond is going to have to be. He'll have his ups and downs this series like everyone else. I think I really think, dude, the Warriors in 7 only because the only guy that you can count on this series to be great every game is Steph. It's the only guy. I mean, as great as AD has been, he is up and down. LeBron's older. It's just the only guy that's going to be there and amazing every game. And are we discounting the fact that maybe Steph's speech kind of brought this team together more? Are they able to put aside some of that ego that you talked about? Is Jordan Poole going to be able to kind of swallow his pride and say,
your ego is not your amigo, Jordan?
Wow. I've never heard that one. No.
I can't remember. I saw the movie the other day and I was just dying.
Sounds like a Will Ferrell, like
it might have been
Vince Vaughn or something. But does Kuminga come out and play with force, as Steve Kerr always says? And if he does that, is he locked in? Same with Jordan Poole. Is he happy playing 18 minutes? If he's just going to play 18, are those efficient 18 minutes? Or is he, like you said, just trying to throw shit up at the rim and just trying to be James Harden for 18 minutes versus trying to be last season's Jordan Poole? So I don't know. That stuff means a lot. I know Marcus Thompson said that, or they said like, hey, they knew the Warriors were going to win before Game 7 because they heard about that speech. And obviously none of us did. Maybe Sam sources did.
The myth making. My guy it's yes, exactly.
All right.
This is the best script yet. I want to end on one Jordan Poole thing. Everyone's really frustrated with him. Trust me, I am too. It's easy to forget. Last year in the playoffs, he was their third leading scorer, and he shot 51, 39, 92 from the field in the playoffs. Yeah, he got pulled off later in the series for defensive possessions, most notably in Boston, where he was only playing about 18 minutes a game. But if you told me you were going to get an efficient Jordan Poole on a consistent basis, I'd take it. I mean, he looked like, well, was it game 2 or game 1 Malik Monk? He looked like that guy all the time in the playoffs last year. And can he get back to that player? Because it's not easy to score as well as he did last year, which is to say he does have the talent to do it. He's just clearly nowhere near playing at that level right now.
Going to be hard to turn the switch. I don't believe it, Sam, but I am praying for it. I am hoping for it because they're going to need it. They're not winning this series if Jordan Poole plays like he did against Zach. They're not.
Yeah, agreed. They need better from him. All right, we'll end it there. Appreciate everyone.